realizes that I'm just winging it.
We're both winging it. Welcome to Winging It. Welcome to our Friday the 13th show. It's the Maple Minds
Oh,
podcast. I'm Christy. That's Rob and Polly. Three people from BC who trade opinions about politics, news, what's happening in the world. Um, we do this show twice a week, Tuesdays and Fridays, and the amount of news and world events that can happen in 3 days is indicative of a quicker timeline than anything else we have experienced in our generations. So we're going to start with the big one, Iran updates for the not calling it a war yet. Iran, I think it's on what it's four. I think it's 13 days now. 13 days, 14 days of just a quick excursion. And you know what? I'm going to say I saw somebody on X suggest that they tried to get Trump to use the word incursion, which makes a lot more sense, right? You know how they didn't want to call it a war. They wanted to call it just a military exercise or something. And an incursion is, one quick, you go in and you disrupt and you attack and stuff. But he keeps calling it an excursion, like the guy's going on holidays. I think he heard him wrong. Somebody else had suggested it, and I think that's right. Sorry, 1 second. 1 second.
maybe it's like Gilligan's Island. They're just going on an excursion, and now they got trapped on an island, and now they're trying to get
Nice
off.
excursion. You're done. You're done supper. You're gonna have your dessert.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I think really it's Gilligan's Island. That's what it is. The skipper and yeah, they.
I think he didn't know
Oh,
what
Donald Trump
incursion
is the
meant. He
skipper.
heard
Is he the
excursion,
skipper?
something that was familiar to him, and he's like, "Yeah, we're just going on a little excursion. We're going to go on an excursion and take out their navy, and we're going to just do this." I think he heard the word wrong, but the word on the street before we came live, about maybe an hour ago, half an hour ago, or something, he had posted that the military had taken out the American military had attacked that island, and I can't remember what it's called. It starts with a K, but it's a very it's a strategic place in the Strait of Hormuz, that they said that they've taken out all of the military targets on that island. Here's the thing. He says a lot of stuff, right? You can't believe this guy. So I don't know if it's true or not. There was a lot of speculation over the last couple of weeks of why aren't they hitting that island? Do they think it's booby trapped or something? Like, why aren't they going there since it's a strategic place? And these guys keep talking about how they have a plan. Of course, we had a plan. How dare the media suggest that we didn't have a plan? Because it feels like you don't have a plan. Do you disagree?
No, they don't have a plan. They have no idea what they're doing. Just like us in this podcast, where they're flying by the seat of their pants too. That's really
I
what
have,
it is.
listen, I have a lot more confidence in us in this podcast than I do with those
Oh,
guys that are on a venture that every president before Trump had turned down.
yeah,
They say a
yeah. It's
lot of
like,
things
no,
like,
I'll do it.
hmm?
Yeah, Trump. Nah, yeah, I'll do it. I'm actually seeing a whole lot of stuff on Trump right now, like showing years ago when he was talking about how going to war is wasteful and it's ridiculous, and and the war. Yeah, they're going to go to war with Iran just so they get their to get reelected and all this. Like it's just hilarious stuff. Like it's so comical that like you can just go back and see like you can see history. You can see what was said. Like you like literally like actually there's one person where he did a spoof with Donald Trump where he showed like all the footage of Donald Trump talking about like how war is costly and we should be putting money back into the country and we shouldn't be going to war. We shouldn't worry about everyone else. And then the guy's like, yeah, that's awesome. This guy's smart, right? And then he starts talking about, oh, these guys want to go to war with Iran. Well, of course they want to go to war with Iran, but we're not going to go to war with Iran, all this stuff. And he goes, yeah, yeah. And then all these clips, and he's like, yeah, this guy's smart. We should elect him. And then all of a sudden it skips to him going, well, yeah, and then he's like, oh, oh, never mind. I thought it was
I think
hilarious.
that, yeah, I think if they get to the midterms, I don't see them, um, I don't see them doing well in the midterms, but I believe that and I hope I'm wrong. I believe they're probably still at war then, and then they say, you know what, we're at war. We can't go to election during a war. I think that for all of the conversations that they talk about, oh, this is just temporary. Oh yeah, we planned for this. We planned for the strait to, because we knew that, you know, Iran always closes the strait, which they don't. This is the first time that it's been closed entirely. They have threatened before, but they've never actually like closed it down. And if this was your plan the whole time, then how come it's been closed for like 10 days already now?
Christy, no. Pete Hegseth came on and he said it's not closed. It's not closed,
Right.
everyone.
Except they're
Oh,
shooting.
what are you guys talking about? The Strait of Hormuz is not closed. It's
Yeah.
open. It's open for business. It's just Iran
Except
shooting missiles. That's all.
that's all. Yeah.
Like
Apparently, I saw
how much of
something
a
else too.
fool? Like how
Yeah.
much of a fool can you look like on like you're live national? Yeah. Oh man, the world
Okay,
is
so
watching.
that is something I want to bring up. When we're talking about how the war, and we're going to call it a war because we call it like
It's
it
a
is.
it's a
When this is talked about, because something that Hegseth was crying about in his presser this morning was the media. And Caroline Levitt has cried about the media. And actually, if you go on to the White House website right now, they have things. CNN is lying about the war. They're very upset that the way that the media is portraying it. I guess that they're mad that the media is letting us know that it was actually the Americans that had bombed the school. I think that they're upset that the media is suggesting, hey, feels like these guys don't have a plan. And they don't. Come on, they don't have a plan. But he said in his presser today, he's like, hey, and I can't even believe that the leader of the biggest military, who's doing the most damage right now, spends his presser time saying, instead of this headline, this is what I'd rather you guys see. They want to dictate to the media how, and he talked about it. He's like, well, we want to send a certain message. Yeah, no shit. We want an accurate message. But then he said something that was way scarier than all of his, we didn't really have a plan kind of communication. And he said, I can't wait for, it's going to be so much better when Ellison takes over CNN. And that's Trump's billionaire buddy. So
yeah.
he's already said, and that wasn't a spur of the moment oops that came out of his mouth. He had it written down. He was right reading from prepared notes. He had prepared to say, it's going to be better when that billionaire takes over the media, that I would rather see these kinds of headlines from, and not the ones that they're putting out. I think that's terrifying.
That's why Paramount like overpaid for it. Paramount went like overpaid, like just grossly overpaid, just so that they can get control of that media. So that they're pretty like now basically the Republicans own all the media now, like the
I think
CNN,
all
or
of it, like
except for maybe not MSNBC, who's still, I think, I'm not sure. I have to look it up. But CNN was a thorn in the Republican side because they would report on things, and yeah, they leaned left, but I still think they were center left. But anyway, they still leaned a little left, and they would hold the Republicans accountable for the things that they're doing. And now what do? They buy them up. There you go. Let's just buy them up because we're billionaires, and now we can control everything. And now I think it's actually more important than ever that social media influencers, especially for news and things like that, are more prevalent, and people start following them and watching them, and I think independent media is the way of the future, because you can't trust anything that's going to be coming out of anyone's mouth ever again.
I 100% believe that. Yeah, and I was going to say, not just about like social media influencers, but about independent media. But social media is a good place to find where to find the independent media. And something that I use religiously is the media bias check. As soon as I read something, first of all, I'm never believing something that only one person's reporting on, ever. Secondly, as soon as I see something that's from a media outlet that I'm not familiar with, I'm checking, where are they on the political spectrum? What do they have to gain by leaning a certain way while they're telling me this story? I think that we are in a time where we're not just fighting higher prices and the effects that a higher price on oil and lack of fertilizer going to countries right before planting season. I think we're fighting the disinformation fight.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, Christy must have got a phone call. I think it is important that we vet the media that we're watching. If we're not vetting the media, then really we're doing a disservice. I mean, we need to make sure that what is being put out there is accurate. It's not biased in some sort of way. We need to make sure that the people that are saying what they're saying have some sort of credibility. And
these
I think that's probably
these right-wing influencers that are spitting out propaganda and attacking people online. Like, they are just clearly like attacking.
I think it's important, because I think really what we have to do is we have to sort of see, what is the content? Is this content like making you angry? Are they rage baiting you? Like, what are they doing? What is this content doing? And if this content is sensationalizing things and rage baiting you and making you angry, they're not reputable people to be paying attention to. I think at the end of the day, you report on exactly what's happening. You state the facts, and you have no opinions. And
like right now they're going on about Carney not talking about Canadian soldiers that were they say attacked, but it was a US base that was hit. Canadian soldiers were there. They got cover. Nobody was injured, but we have these influencers posting AI pictures of Canadian soldiers that are dead or dying or injured, which is not true. That didn't happen. And the reason why people didn't hear about it is because we don't tell, the military does not tell. Like, they don't need regular people knowing their operations, because it puts military personnel at risk. That's why nobody was told about it 2 weeks ago. They want to make sure the Canadians are safe before they pull them out.
Yep. And it wasn't that they were targeted. And I think that the way that it was communicated felt like they were targeted. The only thing I'm going to criticize Carney's response, though, when he said something like, I'm not the only person in government who communicates or something, you're the prime minister. You're the prime minister. I would accept that kind of answer from maybe a backbencher or something. You're the prime minister. You can't hint that there was any sort of like excuse for doing it. Say what Paulie said. Say why you didn't communicate. But to say that you're the only person, it looked like an excuse, in my opinion. If I was his communications manager, I would be like, hey, Mr. Carney, don't do that. I would.
Yeah, he's not good at that sometimes. Like, he really does have I think personally, because I think he gets on the edge of defensive. Not as bad as some people, but I feel like he's probably not used to being challenged the way that a prime minister is challenged every single minute of every single day. This is the guy who was the cream of the crop, right? This guy is the only guy who's ever been able to be a central banker for 2 G7 countries. He was in demand. He was the guy that everybody looked up to, that everybody kissed his ass and didn't challenge. And now everybody's challenging him then. And I think maybe he's not used to it. And I think that he's got to let it roll off his back more.
He's definitely not used to it. He's kind of, I bet you he goes home and goes, what are these people? Like, why?
I bet he debriefs with
this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. Like, I'm sure he does. And then I'm sure there's someone who's going, Mr. Carney, yes, that's part of the job. You got to deal with these people.
It's probably his wife. His wife is probably at home going, I know, honey, I know, but you gotta take it a little. I wonder what they talk about Pierre too.
You've got to soften the edges, and you got to reassure people. You've got to do these things.
And when you come across as defensive, it's not a good look.
Yeah,
when you're a leader, when you're a
Someone
leader,
says sorry,
go ahead. No, Pally, go ahead.
No, someone says in the comments that he's a banker, not a politician, but he is trying to learn.
It is true.
Also,
100%.
I would like to put a little asterisk beside that too. He's a central banker, because I think that there's a big difference between a central banker and a commercial banker. That's just my opinion. But so we can move away from Iran and into Carney now.
Yeah, let's go.
So
there's enough Iran stuff going on. We let's move on.
I was going to talk about how he had. I didn't like his conversation about or his how he came across as defensive, but since I'm here criticizing liberals who come across as defensive, I gotta call out Gregor Robertson.
Wow, that's a switch there.
And here's the thing. Okay, when I tell you what he said, though, this guy is the Minister of Housing. Okay. And he stood up, it was either yesterday or today. I think it was yesterday. And he was like, yeah, the price of housing, but there's a war. It's 13 days old. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You cannot blame housing prices in Canada on a war that's 2 weeks old. Come on. The fact that he tried made me lose respect for him. Honestly, it's bullshit. Come on.
He should go back to being a mayor.
Mayor Moonbeam, remember that? Bike lane mayor.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll have him over Sim.
That's some wild stuff happening there, eh?
For telling
defamation. Yeah, for defamation or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you hear what happened?
Yeah. Just ridiculous.
Yeah. So for anybody else who didn't know, Mayor of Vancouver, Ken Sim, he let somebody else take the shit for repeating to a Chinese station. I believe it was either Chinese media or a Chinese app that is like a WhatsApp, about how another city councillor was passing out illegal drugs on Christmas Day. And then Sim heard about it. He's like, oh, that's bad. You shouldn't do that. And really, he's the guy that the rumor came from. And it didn't come out until other people who speak English and Chinese go, no, he said this too. Guy's a weasel, man. Like, first of all, don't let us find it from somebody else that you said it. If you know it's out there, man, like, be a man. And sorry, I know that's kind of misogynistic, but I'm going to say it again. Kenson, be a man. Just step up and say it was you.
Be a man.
Cowardly.
Yeah. Wow.
If it was a woman, I would say be a woman. Actually, I would just say don't be a coward. I think that not saying anything is cowardly. I really do.
Sure you wouldn't be like, man up?
Man up. No.
Man up.
I'm probably going to take some misogyny shots for saying be a man for Ken Sim. But anyways, okay. So now that I'm done criticizing the Liberals and Ken Sim, let's go to the conversation about the floor crossing. Oh yeah.
Yeah, wild. There we go.
So this time it was from somebody who was NDP. And for background, the riding where she won up in the north, she's from Nunavut. And I'd like to say too, Mark Carney, before Mark Carney, when Trudeau was prime minister, when Harper, was anybody even talking about the territories? Nobody gave a shit. Like down here, nobody ever even talked about the territories. And it was kind of like, it was out of sight, out of mind. Canada's just 10 provinces. And I think that when Carney became PM, that was his first stop, went up to Nunavut. I think that he recognizes the potential of an area that has been overlooked by other leaders, just in my opinion. I don't know what she got for crossing the floor, if any, but if she got more stuff for the North, that's awesome. All the power to her, in my opinion. I think that this is part of the game. I think in a Westminster parliamentary system where floor crossing is allowed, instead of crying about it, find a way to talk to your guys to make sure that they're solid, that they're not going to cross, find out what it'll take from them to make them stay with you, find out why they want to leave. I don't think that just crying about it happening, it hasn't worked. There's been 4 so far. 3 of them have seen what happened to the first guy. And the other guys, they've seen what shit that the person has to take from the public and from the Pierre cheerleaders and from the critics, and it doesn't deter anybody. So why keep doing it? You just look like dicks, I think.
Yeah, I just find this whole floor crosser thing just ridiculous. I mean, who cares? Let them cross. Let them cross. They want to cross. They've been crossing for years. There was a bill years ago that was put out to stop floor crossing, and Pierre Poilievre voted no. Don't do it. You know, conservatives were like, no, allow the floor crossing.
Yeah.
And now they're like whining about it. I mean, I do. Here's the thing, though, is I do get it. Like, I mean, you were voted in by your constituency, and you know you were voted in as a specific party to represent your constituency in Parliament. You
Barely,
were.
though.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, here's the thing: is you're still voted in, and now that you're in there, you're like, I'm going to go to another party. You're sort of leaving your constituency in the dust, going, well, we didn't vote for you in that party. We voted for you in this party. The only thing that I could sort of like go back and say that this is okay is if that person was the reason they voted, and it wouldn't matter what party they were part of, they would have been voted in, or B, that there's been a shift in the representation within that riding, where all of a sudden you're realizing that the polling is heavily favoring the Liberals now, whereas before it was Conservatives, and it's slowly getting more liberal and more liberal. And you look at it going, well, like my constituency, they're basically saying I need to, you know, join the Liberals because my riding is going to be heavily liberal. So then you move over to the Liberals. That makes sense to me. But, you know, and I still think by-election, people go, oh, do a by-election, blah, blah, blah. That's costly. I mean, that's costly. You know, so like, what's the point of that? I mean, we've already got 3 by-elections coming up. And I remember arguing with somebody online because they were like trying to make it seem like the Liberals were trying to steal a majority government with these by-elections. And you're like, dude, 2 of them were like, all 3 of them were Liberals. All 3 ridings were Liberals. One of them, it was a Liberal by 1 vote. So wouldn't you want that to be a by-election? Like, wouldn't you not want to challenge that? Like, you're sitting there saying that the Liberals are pulling some games, but literally that 1 vote could flip and might not be Liberal. So would you not, like, I shook my head and I go, you're out of this world mental. Like, I don't understand it. And the other 2 were fully Liberal. And they went on to do other things. So they gave up their riding. So now there needs to be a by-election. Like, all of them are Liberal. And you're crying saying that the Liberals are trying to do something like deceitful. No, if it was deceitful, they would just put people in place and say, no, we don't need an election. It was already done. And these people are going to take over. That would be deceitful. But allowing a by-election? Yeah. Come on, give your head a shake, people. Like, it's like
there's another accusation that's coming from the Pierre cheerleaders, and that is, you know, Pierre's going to be, or not Pierre, pardon me, Mark Carney's going to be the very first prime minister to get a majority from floor crossing. And that's not accurate. Even though 4 people have crossed the floor, by the time he gets the majority, it'll be probably after the by-elections. If he got to 172 with only floor crossing, then it's a fair comment. But just because he got closer with floor crossing, by the time he gets to 172, it could be from the by-elections, which are voted. So he is being voted. The majority is voted. Secondly, so many people say, well, Canadians voted for a minority government. No, we didn't. We don't get to choose. We don't get to vote if it's a minority government or a majority government. It just depends how many people vote for a certain party, whether it's a majority. It depends on how many seats they get. Canadians do not get, we get to decide like in the big picture, but there's nothing on the ballots that says that we get to decide if it's a minority or a majority. So that's ridiculous.
I disagree with you.
You really? Okay.
I disagree with the fact that you think that the by-election is what's going to give them the majority, and it wasn't the 4 floor crossers. It was the 4 floor crossers that are going to give them the majority. Who cares what came first or last? Take those 4 floor crossers out of the equation. He has a minority government. You put the floor crossers in, he's got a majority. It's the floor crossers that caused it. It's not the by-election. The by-election, they were already Liberal in the first place. The only reason that they increased their seats, like technically, is because of floor crossing. I mean, that's the only
But
reason.
by the time
No, you can't say that though. You can't.
I can.
No, you can't. Like the by-election is like a moot point.
Excuse me, sir. Take it to the comments. I can't
Yeah.
see them. Polly, please let us know in the comments if you agree with me that the Liberals get to majority by votes, because by the time they get to 172, it'll be from counting votes. Or do you agree with Rob that they wouldn't have ever got to the majority with the by-elections had it not been for the floor crossers? So the floor crossers get the credit for the majority. Let us know in the comments. Maybe people agree with you.
Here's the thing, though, is at the end of the day, the by-election, they were already Liberal seats in the first place. So they're not gaining anything by it. They're just reaffirming those seats. They're reaffirming the seats they already had.
But aren't those seats?
They were already Liberal seats in the first place. So they're just going to reaffirm the seats. The people crossing the floor are the reason why the Liberals went up. That's the only reason.
Polly, what do the comments say? Anybody agreeing with me? Anybody at all?
Well, right now, Jane agrees with you, and then Ray, Canadian Prairie CA, says they're with Rob. An ex-federal agent is it's conspiracy theory. It's all planned. And
so we're tied.
It's funny that you, yeah, really.
I love that.
Angela says both arguments are valid. Ex-Canuck says both are in play, but until the by-election is over, it's not a sure thing.
All right.
In my mind, the only reason they're going to get to where they need to be and have more seats than anyone else is because they took seats from other parties. That's it. That's it. It has nothing to do with it. Do you
think when the history books are written, do you think they say, okay, so he's the first guy that got to a majority from floor crossing?
Yes. I would, because the by-elections are just reaffirming seats they already had. They were already Liberal seats. They were Liberal
seats. So if
they
weren't, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, if they weren't Liberal seats, then I would probably argue the other way around.
And I think
if they were conservative seats,
yeah,
and they're not at a majority, and if they were already conservative and they flipped those ridings, then that would create a majority. But they were already Liberal seats. They need to win them back to have the majority because of the floor crossers.
I also think that as far as the Conservatives go, as far as complaining about the floor crossing, they've seen the polls. Like,
yeah,
if they went to an election right now, they're so done. They're so done. If they went to like the one that I saw today was there isn't a single poll that doesn't have the Liberals at a majority. Not even the polls that traditionally favor Pierre and the Conservatives, every single poll. So if Carney said, Kate, you know what, pull in a spring election while I'm at, everybody's kind of liking me right now. I think that number one, it would cost taxpayers a lot of money. I think it's like $500 million. And two, it's just going to get the effect of, I would rather have it happen through floor crossing because it's cheaper for the taxpayer. And I think that everybody has election fatigue. I don't want to do an election again. I don't want to be inundated with all of that campaigning again. I want to move forward.
Yeah. Here's the best part about these three by-elections. And this for me is why I'm kind of excited about the by-election, and Conservatives need to, wake up a little bit, is if the Conservatives win in those by-elections, yeah, they can basically say, look at where we're at. But if they lose miserably, and the Liberals, who should still win those by-elections, I mean, they already had those seats, but the one with the only, with the single vote that was the determining factor in the Liberals winning, if that one wins by a landslide now, I mean, you're looking at the Liberals are doing some pretty great things, right? So if people are behind them and whatever, I still say that constitutes them getting a majority because of it. Just reaffirms the seats that were already there, But
I think
but at least it takes away from us going to an election, right? I mean, but who knows? You think about it. Pierre Poilievre is going to go down to the U.S. and save Canada. So once he does that, it could flip.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I could say it with a straight face.
Let's go there. Because you know what? something interesting happened with the headline about that, because I think it was CTV put out a headline to say Poilievre to visit United States, won't be visiting DC. So a lot of people that I was arguing with read that headline a lot differently than I did. They read the headline as if the media was accusing Poilievre of purposely avoiding DC, of maybe not being invited into DC or whatever, but it seemed like very exclusionary, like the media wanted Canada to know that this guy couldn't get into DC or something, and it was a very negative thing. And I said, I think you're just reading it differently. I read Pierre goes to the same country that his backbencher went to, but doesn't go to the Oval Office like his backbencher went to. And I think it's a normal headline. I think when you have a Conservative MP who just did the same, not the same trip, but did a similar trip of, hey, I'll save the trade negotiations. I'll go down to the States, and he goes to DC. When you see the leader of that party also going, I think some Canadians would have the assumption that he would go to DC because Giovanni did too. So I think that the media was just pointing out, hey, this is a bit different. And I didn't find it very negative, but I'm also not as negative towards the media as some of the people I was arguing with.
Yeah. Here's the thing: is at the end of the day, there's just some whiny people who like to read things in different ways and try to spin things however they want to spin them. And honestly, it's such a waste of time, and I don't know, it makes me sad.
The waste of time thing, here's the thing. I've never been in politics. I've never worked in politics. I don't have any education in politics. I'm a business person. You know that. I'm about numbers. I'm about bottom line. I'm about dollars. And as a taxpayer, it kills me that we're paying these people these generous salaries out of our tax dollars to, when they waste my time, it pisses me off. And I think it should piss all Canadians off. I think going in there and putting in something bullshitty that isn't going to pass just to get an emotional reaction, I think that's a waste of my money. I really do. I think Gregor Robertson, my money is why he is standing in the House of Commons, given that bullshit excuse for housing prices, blaming it on a war. I get pissed off when they Tara Armstrong, MLA, just a different part of where my money goes. But I think I'm pissed off when MLAs in provincial legislature waste my money too. They shouldn't be wasting money.
Yeah, I agree. Stop wasting the money. I mean, here's the thing: is if Pierre Poilievre stood any sort of chance in ever winning an election ever, then I can understand all the dog and pony show that he's doing. But the guy's not even going to come close to ever winning an election with his party as the leader. Like, there's just, like, barring some craziness that happens in the next few years, it just will never happen. It's baffling.
I agree with you. I don't ever see him winning. I really don't. And that's not my bias of how strongly I dislike him. I think what happened is that there's a lot of Conservatives that got enamored with the favorable polls when he was like November 2024, when he was there, when he was the guy. At that point in November 2024, even I said, oh my God, I'm going to have to concede that this guy's going to be my prime minister.
November, though?
But I did. I had accepted that this guy is probably going to win because there's no, like, Trudeau was just so unpopular. And I think, and I've said it many times before, I believe that the largest propeller of that popularity was how unpopular Trudeau was. I don't believe that it was because Pierre had it. It was because Pierre was the anti-Trudeau, and Trudeau just had such a bad taste in so many people's mouths. Whether or not that's valid or it isn't, you can't tell 40 million people how to feel, and they felt very strongly against Trudeau. Here's the guy going, I'm not him. So he became popular. And I think a lot of people went, oh, well, look, that's the most popular we've ever been in the last 10 years. Who cares? Look at what the situation was, and unless you can replicate it, Carney's not Trudeau. Carney is way not Trudeau. And another thing, the way they keep saying, oh, the 10 years of the Carney's Liberals are not Trudeau's Liberals. You cannot compare them. You can't compare them. It's like,
no, they're closer
it's
to
like
Conservatives.
Sorry,
they're closer to Conservatives, in my opinion.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I think that that's intentional. I don't believe that that's going to remain. Maybe I'm naive, and maybe in a couple of years, some people say, Christy, I told you so. But I believe that he is, like I said, when you slip on ice and you turn your car into the direction of the slide in order to regain control of it. I think he's gaining as much control as he can. He got 3 Conservative MPs. His polls are pulling from people who would support Conservatives. I think he's getting as much support as he can. And then I don't think he's going to go as far left as people want him to. I don't think he's ever going to go that way. But I think he'll go further than he is.
Ed from Calgary really wants you both to know that Pierre Poilievre he's going to the US to appear on the Joe Rogan show.
Is he for sure, though? I know that that's what they're saying, but hasn't been confirmed by Rogan or the comms guys. I actually tagged Ed. I tagged them. I saw.
He says he has the tea, but I can't let him up because this is not the format where he can hear us and talk, unfortunately.
I'll check once I get off, but I saw an influencer. I saw one of the Conservative influencers suggest it. So I tagged all the comms people to say, is this true? Is he going on Rogan? And they never answer me. I tag those people all the time. They probably hate me.
Oh, geez.
Anyways, since we're talking about Conservatives, and I do want to leave time at the end to read the letter that the 4 chiefs got together to write to Aaron Gunn. But before we get to Aaron Gunn and the wrap up, since we're still talking about Conservatives and we're ready to disagree, let's talk about it's not a stand your ground bill. It's I can't remember what they called it. But it is an amendment to the self-defense that has to do when somebody breaks into your house.
Oh, yeah.
So we've talked about this before. So here's the details of what they want to change. Because in the criminal code, we're already protected. You already have the right to defend your house using reasonable force. The problem is if you use force against somebody who breaks into your house, you're probably going to court, and you would have to prove that it's reasonable. So what the Conservatives are suggesting is that to make it automatically reasonable if it's against somebody who breaks into your house. Now, I think that's a bad idea. I think that's opening a can of American worms that we don't want to open. However, I understand the concern of wanting to do something if somebody breaks into your house. So what I would do if I was a lawmaker, I would make sure that the language recognizes that having an intruder in your house is a threat of violence, because I don't believe right now it is identified as such. And I think if somebody breaks into your house, in order to keep you and your family safe, you have to assume the worst. If you assume, oh no, they're just here to take my TV and they're there to do worse, you're screwed. So I think in order to protect yourself, most people would assume the worst and then take action back. So I think that if you change the language about the actions of the intruder being a threat of violence, then it would be easier to prove a self-defense act instead of giving broad language that gives a blank check to anybody to do anything as soon as somebody crosses into their house. What do you think?
You know what? Actually, I like your example. I do. My position is always, if you come into my house uninvited, you broken into my house, I need to protect myself and my family. That's really what it comes down to. Now, I understand the excessive force thing. I completely understand that. But you know, I've been in fights where you think it's done, and for whatever reason, the person gets up and they're still like there's times where you got to realize that you've got to ensure that that person is no longer a threat. Like, you have to make sure that they're incapacitated, or they're tied down, or you've got to figure out something where this person is no longer a threat. My problem is, and this is the problem with a lot of people, is if someone comes into your house, you don't know if they're armed. You don't know if they have a gun or a knife or some sort of weapon. You don't know. All you can do is assume that they do, because they are breaking into your house. They're going into someone else's home. And if they aren't armed, it seems almost odd. Like, you're breaking into someone's house and you're not armed in any way, or to be able to protect yourself. So for me, is you've got to assume that this person that's coming in is there to do harm to your family. And I don't know if they're armed. I'm going to assume they are. And you're going to have to assume they are. Because if you don't assume that they're armed, you're in trouble. You've already lost.
That's what I mean.
So the problem, yeah, but here's the problem is, we've seen these in court cases across Canada where people have been like in jail for months until they were finally released and for trial, and then they were obviously found not guilty. But why were they in jail in the first place? They're the homeowner that got broken into. That's where I think a lot of us go, there's something wrong here. If you want to do an investigation, someone breaks into my house, and let's just say I pretty much make sure they don't do any harm, and you want to say, hey, we need to do an investigation into what happened and whether or not, like, the force that you used was necessary in any sort of way, for sure, no problem. You want to do that investigation, you want to kind of check your boxes, but I'm not going to prison, I'm not going to jail while you do it. Like, it doesn't make sense. This person broke into my house, threatened the lives of my family, and I'm going to go to jail for it?
But
why? I didn't break into their house. That's the problem I have.
That. I don't know how many of those people are actually being arrested and stuff. Do you remember? I must have told you about it. It was years and years and years ago. It was probably about maybe 15 years ago, where somebody was breaking into cars in our neighborhood, and my husband came across them at 5 a.m. as they were breaking into cars, and he tuned them up. And I remember seeing the guy, his face looked like hamburger. It was bad. And I remember being so angry at the police and the firemen, because they said, and I quote, "Mr. Joe, we need more like you." And I said, don't encourage him. Don't encourage this vigilante shit. That's not your job. And then they realized what kind of Karen I was, and then they backed off. But I was very angry, and because they were serious and they were like patting him on the back. And I'm like, no, like, you should be enforcing reasonable force and not hamburger face. So when people are being accused of being arrested for all this stuff, like, I've got a firsthand example here of where it didn't happen, and it wasn't even inside our house.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing is, like, 30 years ago, after a lacrosse game, I was on my balcony in the project where I lived, and I was just hanging out. It was like 11:30, midnight or whatever, and it was a nice summer night, and I was just hanging out, and there was a guy beating on his girlfriend down below, and I yelled at them, like, "What are you doing?" And she starts screaming, so I go down there, and the guy basically threatens me, and of course I did what I did, and the police were called, and they took him away, and yeah, I just had to give a statement, and that was about it, and then we went from there. And I mean, yeah, the guy was a little worse off than he was earlier, but I mean, that was 30 years ago. But
right?
But nothing bad happened to me. But I'm just saying that there are instances where, if let's just say someone comes into your home and something happens and you unalive them, and it happens, like,
it shouldn't. Like, here's the thing though, reasonable force dictates that it probably shouldn't happen, right? I think it would depend on the circumstance, but yeah. I think that like I said, if you give them, if you say to every homeowner, it's okay if somebody breaks in, whatever force you apply is going to be considered reasonable, I think that people don't consider reasonable. And I think that it's easy to get carried away, especially when there's fear of, and like, my kid's in the next room or something. I remember years ago, my stepdaughter's house got broken into and my granddaughter was sleeping. She was like 3 years old at the time. And the guy just wanted to steal stuff and get out. She left her laptop in the front window. And I'm like, that's not smart. Like, close your blinds, don't leave valuables in your window. Just lesson learned. But he just, broke the window, took the laptop and ran. But it was she didn't sleep right for like months because it's so violating. And I think that something so violating and so terrifying, it's easy to apply excessive force, and to know that that would be considered reasonable. I don't think that's a can of worms we want to open. That's why I would still address it with the law, but I would put it on the actions of the invasion being such a threat to warrant, because like we both talked about, you have to, in order to keep yourself safe, you do. You assume the worst, because if you assume something lighter, it's going to work out bad for you.
Yeah. All I know is I've been in a lot of situations in which you don't have that much time to really think about what you're doing. You need to react and you need to take care of things. And if, for whatever reason, something happens. I don't think a homeowner should be worried about repercussions. And I do get it. Like, if you go down there and the person's got a knife and you've got a gun and you shoot them, I get it. I mean, that's, especially if they're running away and you shoot them in the back, or there's something like similar, then I get it. I completely understand that. That's probably not something that you should be doing, right? I mean, obviously, if this person's fleeing and you do something to that extent, but I still think, I mean,
I
don't know.
would
Protect your family.
But why would self-defense laws be more lax just because they're in your house than when you face a threat of violence outside of your house?
Because so actually, it's actually a good question. But if you're out in public or you're out in the open, I think you can diffuse situations a lot easier. I think you can get away from those situations easier. Like, you're not forced to stand your ground when you're outside of your home. You're inside your home. You have to stay. There's nowhere for you to go. What, you're going to leave? You're going to run out of the house and get away from them? You can't run out of your house and get away from them
outside of the home. But if your life is in danger, right? If your life is in danger outside of your home, certain or your safety is at risk outside of your home. There are certain parameters to which you can respond to that, depending on the level of threat that comes to you. Now, I like, when I talk about the language being on the intruder, I think it should be strong, because not only do you have the assumption that that person came in there to do the worst to you, but you're also in more of a vulnerable position. And I think maybe this is where we might be going in the same direction on the inside of the house versus the outside of the house. If you're outside of the house, you're probably, like, if it happens in the middle of the night and you're half asleep in your pajamas, you're in a much more vulnerable state than you would be if you're outside in public at all. I would put that language into the threat, into the what is considered a threat. And I would put the language more on the threat and less on the actions of the homeowner, because I think it would be quicker in the courts and everything. And I think it keeps the attention on the person who decided to do the action. The homeowner is deciding to react. It is up to them. This isn't happening, right? It was the other person who instigated it. And so that's why I think that the language should be directed at them instead of the person reacting.
Yeah.
And I think that if the Conservatives actually wanted to get it passed, I think that they would consider that angle. But I don't believe that I think that this is just to stir up emotions. I don't believe that they have any intention of getting this passed, because they already tried in the summertime and it didn't work. And I don't believe that they've changed any of the language. They're just trying it again.
Yeah. I believe in like, for personal experience, outside of the home, like outside in public or wherever you're at, it's different than in your home. I mean, luckily I've never had to face anyone in my house, and to worry about that. But if you're but here's the thing is outside, you have opportunities. Like it's a bit different, whereas when you're in your home and you're in that vulnerable state, but you also have your family there. You have your kids, you have your wife, you have other people in the house that if this person was to somehow get past you, like now what? Now what's going to happen? You know what I mean? Like there's a, if you're out in public or you're out doing something different, there are ways to get away from it sometimes. Like sometimes you're able to diffuse a situation or get away from it. You can't diffuse the situation. Someone's broken into your house in the middle of the night. You don't know what kind of weapon they have. You don't know what their intentions are. You can only react, and that is like you need to deal with them. Whereas outside, you don't necessarily have to deal with that person. Like, you don't need to engage if they attack you.
Depends on the situation.
No, but here's the thing is if they attack you, right, you can use reasonable force to sort of, stop them from attacking you. And then you can sort of leave that area. I mean, obviously there's times where, if you're getting into an altercation or someone attacks you, it takes a different level to it. But I find that you can't just diffuse the situation with someone in your house and you don't know what they're trying to do. You can't just go, hey, what are you doing in my house?
Something about it. It just has to be reasonable.
Well, I don't think you have time for reasonable inside your home in the middle of the night with some intruder that you don't know their intentions or their weaponry.
Then why aren't we seeing everybody else kill the intruders?
I don't know.
If you're saying that you don't have any time, we have about 130,000 intrusions a year. Why aren't all those people getting killed? If everybody's just making these snap decisions and they don't, I think that they know that they can't do it.
Think of statistics though. How many gun owners are there in Canada? What are the statistics on break-ins with people with guns?
Okay.
I can probably tell you that
that's not the only way though, right?
Yeah, I'm just saying. Guns are the easiest way.
Let me rephrase it. How come we don't have all these people getting the absolute snot beaten out of them with a bat or something else? I think it's because people know that they can't kill people just for coming into their house. They know that it has to be reasonable force. It is happening. I just think that
what are these statistics though?
Isn't unreasonable.
You're bringing up statistics, but how many of those break-ins were while people were at home in the middle of the night? Like how many of those? Or how many of them were just break-ins during the day when people weren't home?
Can you name any last year or in the past years?
I'm saying I don't know the statistics. I don't know the statistics of you're bringing up all these statistics of 100,000 break-ins and no one died from it. I don't know those statistics, but I also say how many times are people breaking into home?
I didn't say nobody. I said if your argument applied to it all, we would see a lot more than we do.
What I'm saying though is the statistics you're bringing up don't correlate to what we're talking about, because how many of those break-ins were when people weren't home?
I don't know.
We don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But even when, so
exactly, we don't know.
If I had the statistics for the exact number of times that somebody's house was broken into while somebody else was there, I think that if everybody was thinking like you, like, hey, I'm not even going to think about it, I'm just going to do it, I think we'd see more dead guys. I think the fact that people know that they can't do it probably stops some of them.
I think there's a few issues with this. I think that people who are breaking into homes aren't breaking into homes where they know that there's a possibility that whoever's in there is in there and they're going to be a threat. I think they're breaking into homes where nobody's there, or there's vulnerable people in there and there's no one that's going to pose a threat to them. I think if you're breaking into a house, are you going to break into a house that's got a Rottweiler and some dude that you see probably has multiple guns in their house? They're not breaking into those homes. It's also, you go back to certain things where there's more crimes against certain children when they see the father is not a threat to those children, or is not a threat, to them. So, people are breaking into homes and they're selectively breaking into homes. They're going to break into homes when people aren't there, or if there's no threats to them in there. There's no way that they're breaking into homes where there's going to be an actual threat, or they have a potential for them to be injured in that break-in. Like, and so that's why I don't think that there's going to ever be a proper
I think you're only talking about percentage of the intruders. I think you're talking about the smart ones. I think you're talking about the professional ones, the ones that probably make a living out of ripping people off, the guys that go in with lists, the guys that take the time to stake out a place before they break in. And I think that there's another group of people that are desperate for a hit, and that they do not put any consideration in, and they just, anywhere you can get anything that I can sell.
Yeah, and I think those people are usually are going to places where nobody's home.
Those are the kind, and I think it depends where you
live. I don't think anyone's home.
I think that if you live more in a suburban area, you're probably more likely to get the kind of thief that you're describing. And if you live near public transit, you're probably getting the kind that I'm describing.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Different thieves for different areas.
But those thieves aren't breaking into, they're still going to select homes where they don't think anyone's home first. And sure, maybe they get surprised by it. But if you're coming in for a hit, trying to just get something so that you can take a hit, I mean, you can sort of see that person in your house, and, come on. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to wrap up, and I'm going to read the letter from Aaron Gunn now. But I really did like disagreeing with you. Side bet, do you think the bill passes? I don't think it passes.
It doesn't pass. It doesn't pass. It's too open-ended. That's the problem with that bill, is it's open-ended. There's no way it can pass, because it just sort of gives the homeowners carte blanche to absolutely do whatever they want. And that's not what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for carte blanche to someone breaks into my house and I get to just shoot them in the head without even worrying about it and go, haha, it's done. You know what I mean? Or I can beat them to a pulp and then, you know what I mean? Like, it's not happening.
What were you saying, Paulie?
We have to start where you in the beginning said that they needed to change the wording in the bill itself. So that's where it started. When you first came on, you were saying they needed to change the wording.
Yeah, and I agree with that.
Yeah,
I do agree with that.
What I would do is I would change the wording to include that the invasion itself is a threat of violence.
Yeah.
That's what I would do, and I think that you'd have a better shot of it getting passed. Because then like I said, when you put the language towards the action of the intruder and not the person reacting to the intruder, you get kind of what everybody wants out of this bill. And that's why I said that I don't believe that the Conservatives have a good faith effort in putting it forward, because I don't think that the way it's written, I think they know it's not going to pass. I think they know it's too broad, but then I think they do it on purpose so that they can say, see, the Liberals don't want to keep you safe.
Yeah, they're just trying to make the Liberals look like they're weak against crime. Instead of actually
finding a way to win, instead of changing how you worded it so that you get what you want in a way that Liberals agree to it, everybody's happy. That's not politics. That's why people hate politics.
And that's why the liberals need to turn around and do a bill that includes that sort of wording, and then wait for the Conservatives to. But here's the thing: is I think they need to, just to see whether or not the Conservatives vote on it or not, and then be like, wait a second, there's not too much difference here. We're trying to protect homeowners anyway.
You know what? If they did that, I think that they should. I don't think they will, but I think that they should, because. For the same reason that Mark Carney took off the carbon tax, the personal carbon tax, because it takes away one of their cards. It takes away one of their talking points. If you were able to pass the bill with the language that, again, goes towards the intruder and not the homeowner, and you still get the result that you want, that's something that they can't bring out against you. It's something that they should celebrate. Okay, good. Everybody gets what they want, but they won't, because they get the support when they can say, other guy other guy doesn't want this for you. I want to keep you safe. The other guy doesn't want to.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of that, we're going to wrap up with a letter to Aaron Gunn, because this is just kind of awesome. What happened? Aaron Gunn is an MP on the North Island. He's very conservative, and he is quite controversial when it comes to messages about residential schools and land acknowledgement and Indigenous people in general. And so 4 of the chiefs got together and they wrote him a letter, and he was crying about it today. He did this long post crying about it, and it just makes him look like a sore loser. Okay, here we go. Well, you know what? I got to put my glasses on for this. Okay, chiefs from First Nations communities are urging the public to please approach Aaron Gunn with no caution whatsoever. He is completely harmless, though momentarily unsettled by the alarming possibility that someone might acknowledge the land before a meeting. Yesterday on social media, the MP appeared to crash out and demand to speak to the manager of land acknowledgements, a position that observers confirm does not exist. Chiefs whose territories make up the riding had 2 words for the MP. Chillax, bud. Land acknowledgements have never seized private property, canceled a mortgage, repossessed a pickup truck, or altered a single title deed anywhere in Canada. They are simply people recognizing the history of the place where they are standing. No one is going anywhere. Canada will survive the brief moment of honesty. Until then, chiefs across the region continue to reassure the public that land acknowledgements have not to date resulted in any land back. And then all 4 of them signed it. I thought it was awesome. I thought they handled it with humor. He accused them of, making fun of a serious whatever. I think they could have handled that a lot differently. I thought it was fantastic. I do.
Yeah, I think it's great.
No crumbs, as the youngsters say. All right, that's what we've got for this week. So next Tuesday, and Rob, I'll text you to see how you want to get in touch with Francis. Next Tuesday is St. Patrick's Day. I will be out drinking green beer, and Rob will be doing the show with Francis instead of me, which I think is interesting because they've only ever done the show with me as well. I'm very sorry to be missing it, but I will watch it on YouTube afterwards. A reminder to everybody, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube, you should, and you can see all of our old shows there. We're live here every Tuesday and Friday at 5:00 Pacific time. Next Tuesday again will be Rob and Francis, and then I will be back again next Friday. Thank you very much for everybody for joining us and subscribing and telling your friends and family to subscribe and joining in the comments and everybody agreeing with me and disagreeing with Rob. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening. Thanks for all the gifts, likes, and
Thank you.
shares.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you. See you later.
Bye.